Hi, I'm Matthew McLean. I'm the creative director of Frieze Studios and the editor of Frieze Week magazine. Welcome to London. This is Art Live. It's preview day, which means Frieze London and Frieze Masters are just about to open. And we're going to go on a quick tour of the fairs, meet some of the exhibitors, participating artists, and see what's going on. I'm starting for now just outside Frieze London in the Regent's Park with this Araucaria, or monkey puzzle tree. And she is our cover star of Frieze Week this issue, in a specially commissioned artwork by the British painter Andrew Sim. And I really love this piece because Andrew sort of encouraged us to see the familiar with fresh eyes. And I think this is going to be a theme as we move through the fairs today. I think it's almost going to feel like going to a whole new fair. Everybody's been talking about this new layout the last few days when I've been going around London. Some people are even wondering if they're going to get lost. I hope I won't, but let's find out. Come with me. So one of the changes in the layout of Frieze London this year is the position of the focus section, which is the section of the fair for emerging galleries. It's subsidised, and it's when you find some of the boldest and most radical propositions anywhere in the fair. With Frieze London's new layout, the focus section is really positioned at the heart of the fair, and it really underscores the fair's commitment to new discoveries and quite challenging work. And gallerists in this section are really using the platform as an opportunity to take risks, which is brilliantly exemplified by the Benedicta Biera installation at Palace Enterprise with this swaying cornfield of penguins. Petrin, a great young gallery from Paris, is showing these very beautiful but very austere works by Florence Carr, or a gallery like Ginny on Frederick, based here in London, has actually built 2 walls into their stand to show off these beautiful new stained glass works by the artist Charlotte Eady. Good morning, Jenkin.
Yeah.
It's a bit embarrassing. We are on camera, so you're a bit underdressed.
No, I know. Getting into contact lenses at 7 a.m. this morning was not the most fab moment of my week, but we're here.
They look fabulous. I am joking. Appreciate it. Tell me, if it were a fairy story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, tell me the story of the film you're showing with Assanti.
So I'm actually more interested in narrative cycles that loop or kind of fall back into themselves, challenging this idea of narratives that have to have a sense of progress or uplift, and rather kind of leaning into this Ouroboros, or like a snake that eats its tail. And so it follows a series of doppelgangers as they kind of loop through this production system that is transmogrified out of a kind of sauna film set. And so we kind of follow the characters as they loop through this chain of production and consumption, with one character being sort of rigged up to a sweat extraction device and sweating out in the sauna, and the other one being sort of propelled forwards by its liquid into a sort of feverish go-go dance. And then the characters kind of endlessly loop back into each other.
One thing I really appreciate about your work is how you really attend to the viewing conditions and the environment in which somebody's receiving a film. Could you talk about why that's so important for you, the kind of the surround of the video work and things?
Yeah, I guess I'm interested in these sort of eerie, uncanny environments that replicate or distort like a funhouse mirror, the kind of sets or the landscapes of the film. Yeah, I'm interested in both that uncanniness, but also setting up an implication for the viewer, or making these sort of fully realised, ingested environments that create a surround screen.
And finally, in real life, do you enjoy a sauna? Do you like getting hot and sweaty?
I went for my friend's birthday to a Russian one where you whip each other with the
one off City Road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we went to the Banya.
Banya number 1.
Banya number 1. Yeah, so we went there, had lots of shellfish and vodka, and did the cold dunks. So yeah, I'm partial to that.
Should we go into your sauna together?
Yeah.
So this is the Deutsche Bank Wealth Management Lounge, which this year they've given over entirely to the British artist Rene Matic. Rene's chosen to display a series of large photos on light boxes, depictions of people, places, tenderness, belonging, memories. And they've installed them all on this wallpaper, which is actually a real intense close-up of their own skin, which is so close up it's got kind of pixelated. So I love the way that there's this push-pull between depictions of identity and the way that identity kind of dissolves. Rene's also an artist really interested in British musical history and subcultures like Northern Soul and Ska, and they've taken the bold decision to install bang in the middle of the lounge this giant mirror ball, turning the whole place kind of into a club. You can see all kinds of weird and wonderful things at the Frieze art fairs, and really special experiences are there to be had as well. I'm here in front of the stand of Lehmann Maupin, a gallery who actually invited the British painter Billy Childish to paint live on the stand. I'm going to go and have a few words with him. Hi Billy.
Hi Jack.
What are you doing?
Painting.
Talk to me a little about what's this one that you're painting?
Well, all of the work is really Dreamtime stuff. I do base things on pictures I take and ideas I, but really the location is immaterial. I don't like leading anybody by the nose, and I have no intention of guiding a response. So therefore, time and place isn't important, because what I'm doing is I'm sort of like, if it's not painting by numbers, it's cookery. So what you do is you don't add what you want, you add what it wants. Right. So you taste it. I mean, as far as the art world goes, I always say I don't get involved in art, I do pictures. I leave art to the people who think they're artists.
Who's your favourite painter, living or dead?
I've got a couple, but it's Munch and Van Gogh, and I think Van Gogh because of the spiritual element of his work and the fact that it's everyman's. Because like with my paintings, to get a painting in this place is quite expensive, but we make decent prints of things for the everyman, and Van Gogh made do with prints of everything he liked. Yeah. Because what it is, it's something that makes the world more pleasant, or environmentally more pleasant. I think it's very basic. I'm not interested in investment or the value. My view is that art's valued for the wrong reasons and undervalued for the wrong reasons. Creativity is a universal thing that people allow themselves to be talked out of. And I think that it's something that we all share, really, and maybe they start whittling us down at infant school and working out who's good, because it's not really that interesting. As long as you're not ruled by sex and money, you've got a chance.
Might be a bit late for some of us.
It might be a bit late for some of us, but you know, we have to be nice to ourselves and let ourselves off the hook occasionally.
Thank you so much for speaking to me today. Good luck with the rest of this one. I think you missed a bit.
I think I did. I've missed a hell of a lot of it, mate.
This section is called Artist to Artist. It was launched at Frieze London last year. It's back for this year. And in a nutshell, it's where the art stars of today pick the art stars of tomorrow. For this stand of the gallery Champ-le-Com, which is in Biarritz, the American artist Glenn Ligon, who's got a major show up in Cambridge at the moment at the Fitzwilliam Museum, has selected an emerging UK-based artist, Apau Junior Boyakye Yedong. And Apau's work is often about performance, about sound, about different forms of knowledge, about how knowledge is constructed. And for this piece, they're actually learning to play the drums themselves, but they're choosing to do it live here in the fair. So these are the English gardens in the Regent's Park, which are the home once again to Frieze Sculpture, very handily situated just between Frieze London and Frieze Masters. The display this year is curated once again by independent curator Fatosh Ustek, and it features work by 22 artists from all over the world, Japan, the United Arab Emirates, Portugal, and loads of British artists and artists based in London also. I'm really struck by Nathan Coley's illuminated text piece, which announces "I don't have another land." It's a phrase that he found as a piece of graffiti scrawled on a wall in Jerusalem, and it's almost painfully relevant to issues of our time to do with belonging and territorial claims, as well as, I guess, the uniqueness and fragility of the environment. Libby Heaney has this really eye-catching sculpture of a kind of biomorphic slumped woman with bits of perspex popping out of her shoulders. If anybody's seen The Substance with Demi Moore, it might ring a few bells. And it's kind of all about the human form and how it might interact with AI technology. The artist also created a game that you can play, and this idea of play and engagement has really guided Fatosh's curation of the section this year. This sense of interactivity and action really runs through the display this year. Good morning, Muholi. Congratulations on your first sculpture, I believe, to be present in Frieze Sculpture. Many people will have first encountered your work in the form of photography. Can you tell me a little bit about when you started moving into the three-dimensional and what drew you to it?
Sculptures are visuals, visuals are sculptures. It's all about the image. The other image is soft, the other one is harder than the other. So the move is intentional because we just want to expand the narrative. The whole point is to tell the story and share experiences that one goes through in life. So this is just one of my many stories.
In terms of the personalization or the modeling of the figures' features, how do you approach that?
When it comes to these works, I try to personalize them so that whatever that I do start with me relating my story, but then each and every person obviously have their own stories that they wish to share in the world. Then it becomes like shared traumas, which then needs counter healing of some sort. Because then the minute we start with selves, speaking to other people in different spaces, it means that we are aware and we are not forgetful of whatever scenes or events that are taking place around us.
What story in particular were you hoping to tell with this sculpture?
The piece is called Bambata. It tells a story of a woman who died one evening from violence in Durban, which is a city where I was born. 2 women were found, they were murdered. That morning, everybody feared their lives, mostly females. So I just wanted to narrate this particular narrative, speaking on all that has happened to many people, violence that women's bodies, are exposed to on a daily basis. And I personalized the story because in my previous life, I worked as a reporter and in which I had to photograph different crime scenes. So this now becomes that space in which I relive the experiences of being in those crime scenes. That trauma, that sense of entrapment of being within that space where you can't move, so you don't know whether to cry, you don't know how to deal with the situation. Also being at Frieze, it means a lot because it's a space where a lot of people engage with artworks and they read the codes of what is presented to them. So I thought that to bring something serious, which is not whimsical, will help those who are passing the space to rethink of, the time in which we live now, and also maybe think of the many lives that are lost.
So Frieze Masters has always been a place where artworks from different eras come together and offer new perspectives on one another. But I think this aspect of dialogue between different periods is even more pronounced than ever at this year's edition of the fair. One way this is manifested is here on the stand of House and Wirth Gallery, which works with some of the most well-known and most respected contemporary figures, modern masters. But this is the first time, to my mind, that they've been presenting work from a historical period. So you can see 2 examples on the stand. There's a really misty, eerie, slightly poignant depiction of London, painted by Willem Hammershoy. And then behind me there is this marvel, which is a painting from 1865 by Edouard Manet. It's a fragment of a larger picture that depicts a day at the races at Longchamp in the west of Paris, which was then a very buzzy, hip, contemporary thing to be doing in Paris at that era. For many people, Manet is the first great painter of modern life. We start to see modernity in a way that we recognise emerge in his representations. And so it's quite incredible to walk into the fair and start with almost this kick-off point of modern painting and see how it unfurls through all these other artists throughout Frieze Masters. So because my dad is an avid book collector and an amateur book dealer, my first ever Sunday job was at a book fair at the Royal National Hotel in Bloomsbury when I was a teenager. And so I always feel really at home around book dealers. And it's wonderful, therefore, to see so many dealers in rare books here at Frieze Masters. And their offerings range from, over at the stand of Dr. Jorn Gunther Rare Books, a book of hours from 1493 that was given by the Duke of Milan to his niece on her wedding day, exquisitely illuminated with gilt, to these presentations that are more contemporary and sort of connect with popular culture in a real way. This is a stand of Daniel Crouch, who deal with maps as well as books, and the whole stand is dedicated to fantasy worlds, so you enter and leave as if you're going into Narnia through the wardrobe. And they have a map of Middle-earth with the lands of Mordor marked on there. This is the Great Fairy Map designed by Bernard Slay. And here, these are maps from the first edition of George R.R. Martin's Lands of Ice and Fire. They depict all of the worlds of the Song of Ice and Fire series that people know from the books, in my case, or from the TV shows. And as you look at them, Westeros, Braavos, King's Landing, takes you back to the glory days of watching those shows on TV and makes me want to hum the theme tune. Do, 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 do. I won't go on. Hey Wendi, thank you for making time to talk to us today.
Thank you.
Can you tell me about the title and concept of the presentation? What unites all of these folks?
The title is Landscapes of the Mind, and it's a blend of referencing Freud, who was very important to the Surrealist movement, but it's also about their landscapes. So all of the artists in our presentation, all 9 of them, their lives were disrupted. There was some tumultuous event during World War II. They ended up emigrating forcefully back to Mexico or the Americas. So the idea is, how did the change of landscape affect their paintings? So there's a little bit of before, the last painting they made before leaving the continent, and to how their work changed when they arrived to the Americas. So it's showing a really curatorially tight concept, but across a range of 9 diverse artists.
Do you think there's something in the wider culture that means that the Surrealists speak to us now in a sort of very urgent way?
I do. I think 100 years later, we're here in the 100th anniversary of Surrealism, which is why I have sort of a booth recognizing that. The psychological stress that these artists were under at that time, I think mirrored to some degree what's going on in the world today. So I think for many people, when I started this, I think Surrealism was very complex, but now more and more people are starting to unpack it, taking time to understand what they were looking at in terms of the psychology behind it.
Would it be possible for you to pick out just one work from the stand that you felt particularly excited to bring to the fair this year, and tell me why?
Absolutely. It's Wolfgang Paulin's painting called Combat of the Saturnian Princes. It's the main anchor of the booth, and it's basically a premonition of war-torn Europe, of what's going to happen with the war. It's a reference to the mythological study of Saturn and how his sons, the princes, basically devour him. And in his classical technique is called fumage that he invented, which is basically the smoke from a candle hitting the gessoed surface of the canvas, and then he paints around it, and it's absolutely spectacular.
Should we go and have a look at it now?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
The way that the art of the past and the art of the present are always sort of prodding out or playing with each other becomes really clear in this section, which is called Studio. It has an enhanced presence at the fair this year after it was launched last year, and it's curated again by Sheena Wagstaff, who's joined us at Frieze Masters, fresh from the Met Museum in New York. Studio is dedicated to really important artists of recent times, but as well as presenting capsules of their achievement, it also uniquely shows examples of the objects, artworks and artifacts which have inspired and shaped their practice. So this stand is dedicated to the work of Nathalie du Pasquier, a really important member of the postmodern design movement called the Memphis Group. But as well as working in design, Nathalie du Pasquier is also a beautiful painter. But alongside Nathalie's own work, the gallery has managed to gather these objects which have kind of shaped her visual world. And even this chair, which is made by George Sowden and painted in this wonderful yellow colour, comes courtesy of the artist from her personal collection. And at the back of the stand, the gallery's managed to include in the presentation a really rare folding screen from Korea from about 1900, and it's a trompe-l'oeil design. It's painted to look like shelves covered with everyday objects, exquisitely painted, very playful. It's a really rare thing, I understand, to see at any art fair. And I don't know if du Pasquier was actually directly influenced by objects like this, but looking at it, particularly in the treatment of perspective in these stacks of books and the way they kind of slide away in more than one direction and the positioning of the grids, you can certainly see a really clear parallel between that and some of du Pasquier's paintings. So the sun's coming down, it's been a great busy day. I'm going to leave the fairs now and get some rest because there are 4 more days of Frieze Week in London and all that art's not going to see itself. Thank you so much for joining us for Art Live. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.